Hello, everyone. Can you guys all see my screen? Okay, so I'll be quick with it then, since we're running short on time. So, hello, guys. My name's Anthony. I'm a grade 11 student from Canada, and this summer I went to a summer program at Columbia that focuses on the psychology and neuroscience behind failure. And I did my fair share of research. So, my presentation today is going to be about the two most important insights about failure that I've learned, and hopefully it's interesting to you all. So, first up, so the first lesson I learned was from interviewing Jar Jar Binks from Star Wars, which sounds pretty weird, but in my summer program, I got to share a conversation with the actor behind that person where a question about failure was asked. And he explained to me that long-term failure does not exist as long as you turn it into a lesson, because every single time you fall short of a goal, you are gaining information. You are learning about what doesn't work, where your assumptions might be wrong, and what skills you need to build on. And so that is something that you cannot get from success alone. That's why failure is incredibly, incredibly important. So we've had a lot of great speakers about science, and so I'm going to reference science in my analogy here. So in science, experiments fail all the time, but each failed experiment will help, the researcher identify the question and refine it. They're able to redesign the process. They're able to reframe the hypothesis. And, I think the same concept and what Ahmed said is that it applies to our lives, which is that, for example, every time you lose a debate or get very, very bad marks on your English test, you can improve on something. And that idea applies to literally anything except maybe gambling. But losing in life, especially under a system where your current actions will dictate your future, means that a small action that changes your life can be incredibly positive, especially if that is failure. So the greatest idea I wanted you guys to take from this first lesson is that every failure until death is purely short term, and all you have to do is find what that lesson is, and that you've turned your failure into a win. So the next thing we're going to talk about is a study that I learned about in my program. So I read a 2016 study. It was published in the Journal of Educational Psychology. It was by two Columbia professors in the Department of Education, and it's called Even Einstein Struggled. And what the study found was that exposing high school students to stories of great scientists' failures over their achievements significantly improved the motivation and academic performance, especially that of very low performing students. And the reason why is because these stories are able to help, students internalize the idea that your ability is not fixed. It's not just something you're born with, but it's something that you go through via failure. And the insight into this research is very, very important, which is that, this is cross applicable to almost every single one of our lives where we all fail, but the way you think about success will reshape your ability to achieve it. In other words, if you change your behavior and you change your beliefs, that ends up changing your behavior, and your behavior obviously will change your outcomes. And the second piece of research that I learned about is going to explain why this happens. And the reason why this happens is because in neuroscience, there's an idea called neuroplasticity, which is that your brain treats every new thought that you think about as an additional way to change it. And so if you tell yourself, for example, I'm screwed or I'm doomed, your brain will literally adjust accordingly, and you will go through that neural pathway and you develop that, and then you're going to have a very, very negative mindset. But if you tell yourself you're always adapting, you always have a good positive outcome, your brain is literally being rewired and built to become resilient, and that failure sort of becomes the fertilizer for growth. So that's the same mindset that many, many other successful people have used. Some people that I know we watch on TV. One of my favorites is Conor McGregor, who's doing questionable things now, but he was great in his prime. And one of his quotes was, "If you can see it here and you have the courage to speak it, it will happen." And that's the sort of same neuroscience thing that we're talking about in our research, right? Where because of neuroplasticity, if you continue rewiring your brain into thinking that everything in your life is happening for a reason and it's always going to be positive, then it's very, very hard to fail. So hopefully those two lessons are cross applicable to you guys' life and especially your research as well. And when you're in hard times, you think about that. So these two studies were incredibly interesting to me, showed me a way outside of failure, which was a perspective that I think is valuable to everyone. So I'd like to thank everyone for the time. Thanks for listening. And yeah.